The next topic within personality is the trait perspective. And the trait perspective is not a theory of personality on its own. It's not a theory that explains how personality develops or changes. Rather, is the study of particular characteristics of personality that are called traits that are important. So what are the most important characteristics that are important when we look at personality? And so traits are these reasonably stable elements of personality that are inferred from behavior. So an individual behave in a particular way, and as a result of it, they are assigned a particular characteristic, a particular trait, particular element of personality. Mary sits in the back of the room, doesn't talk to anybody, therefore she must be shy. Now we know that this study of personality traits started long time ago. Even Hippocrates in ancient Greece, famous philosopher, have theorized that there are four fluids, humors within the body that determines how an individual is going to act. And Hippocrates talked about, for example, having different bile color, having a black bile, would indicate an individual who's melancholic, and yellow bile, and so on, or the amount of blood that an individual might have within their body. So these psychological imbalances were helped, were cured, were treated through vomiting and bloodletting. So by changing the amount of these fluids within the body, Hippocrates thought that we could change someone's personality. A more recent individuals who studied traits were Charles Spearman. Now remember from the study of intelligence, how Spearman was involved in identifying factors within intelligence that are important. So he did a similar thing for personality. So he employed a technique known as factor analysis. So what are the factors that in different individuals appear to be most important in personality development? So he focused on this idea of these heritable traits that are passed on from generation to generation, that might be embedded into the nervous system, that might create different aspects of the nervous system. Allport is one of the most extreme in the sense of developing an extreme number of traits, cataloged 18,000 human traits that are related to personality. So there are certainly a number of different aspects that can have an impact on personality. Einsack, on the other hand, developed this trait theory, which focuses, and actually it relates back to Hippocrates' theory, focusing on the relationship between introversion and extraversion along one axis, and stability and instability along another axis. And by looking at the relationship between introversion and extraversion, and stability and instability, you can determine, according to Einsack, an individual's personality. So here's the table, the graph that would explain how this idea would work. You see on this horizontal axis we have an introverted, extroverted continuum, And in the horizontal axis, we have the unstable, stable continuum. So someone, for example, can be stable and extroverted, and depending on the degree between stability and extroversion, an individual might develop a personality that is easygoing, responsive, talkative, outgoing, sociable, and so on in this quadrant. On the other hand, an individual can be extroverted but unstable. In that case, it might develop a personality that is impulsive, excitable, aggressive, restless. Someone can be unstable and introverted, which would result in a personality that is moody, rigid, pessimistic, unsociable. And finally, someone can develop a personality that is introverted and stable, which would result in a personality that's cheerful, thoughtful, peaceful, controlled, reliable. And in the inner circle here, you see the relationship between Einstein personality dimension and Hippocrates personality types. So there's a relationship there between the two. Then there is the Big Five theory of personality, which is the fact that there are 5 basic personality factors that appears to be extremely important. And these factors are extroversion, neuroticism, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and openness to experience. So instead of having those, the two continuum here between unstable and stable, introverted and extroverted, the Big Five model, it is that there are 5 of this continuum in terms of extroversion, neuroticism, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and openness to experience. And research has shown that there are cross-cultural application, the relationship to these inborn temperaments. So that these 5 factors appear to be important in a number of different cultures throughout the world. And these Big Five personality types is a model that is employed often in the modern world, in the current society, to develop personality types. So whenever you take a personality test, for example, in a magazine, or online, there might be a questionnaire that is supposedly going to show you what kind of personality you have, and you have to answer a number of questions. Now, most frequently than not, those type of questionnaires are based on the Big Five model. Now, in general, the trait model has been useful to identify these different types of personality. Researchers agree that different individuals can show similar personality characteristics, and they can be grouped in these different personality types. However, as I mentioned in the beginning of this discussion of the trait model, this research has been more descriptive than explanatory. In other words, it describes the different types of personality, but it doesn't explain how people got there. If you are stable and extroverted, we agree that some people are similar in the sense that they share this personality trait. However, this theory doesn't explain how individuals develop that kind of personality. Unlike Freud, who, as you remember, tried to explain how people develop a personality by going through a series of stages. Now, the learning theory perspective suggests, not surprisingly, that we develop our personality through learning, beginning with Watson, very famous behaviorist. Remember, he's the one that suggested that we can take any child and turn that child into anything we want by exposing them to different environments. right? So that Watson believed that we develop a personality by observing the behavior of others and not by unseen, undetectable, unconscious forces, as Freud suggested. So we develop personality by concrete, visible, measurable changes in observable behavior. Skinner, remember again, that emphasized the effect of reinforcement, operant conditioning, rewards, punishment, positive, negative reinforcements, and punishment being very important. And the criticism of this view is, of course, that they ignore the role of choice. That even if we are exposed to a particular relationship between pressing a lever and getting something positive, let's say a reward out of it, an organism, an individual in particular, human being, can decide not to do something, not to press the lever, despite the fact that a reward is associated with it. Right? So they can decide to do something that can potentially lead to some negative consequences, like punishments. Right? And of course, they ignore consciousness, which is something that you cannot see. Right? We process information mentally from, remember, a cognitive perspective, where human beings are information processor. We mentally process information, and that aspect of human being and potentially how we develop our personality is ignored by behaviorism. And finally, we have this humanistic existential perspective. Humanism, as a theory in general, argues that human beings are capable of free choice and self-fulfillment. Right? So that we are active in determining what kind of behavior we are engaging in, and perhaps even what kind of personality we develop. Because ultimately, we are striving for self-fulfillment, to become the individual that we always wanted to be, which is the idea behind Maslow self-actualization. Remember that Maslow suggested that there are a hierarchy of needs when we talked about motivation, beginning with physiological needs at the bottom, and then safety, and then the needs for love and belongingness, self-esteem, and finally, right at the top, we have self-actualization, which is becoming the person that we always wanted to be. So Rogers developed this theory a little bit further, Carl Rogers, and argued that we have an idea, everyone has an idea of who we are, right? So your idea of yourself, your ongoing sense of who and what you are, and how and why you react to the environment. Right? So you are consciously aware of who you are at that moment, but of course that self is going to change as you grow, as you develop, as your personality potentially is going to change. You, at any given time, if you are psychologically healthy, are going to know who you are. And the self theory that Rogers developed focused on the nature of the self and the condition that maximizes the self to develop freely, to develop in terms of advancing your personality. So again, we have this idea of the self, and the self concept is our impression of ourselves and how we evaluate ourselves. According to Rogers, we can develop the self can advance, and you can develop to improve your personality by receiving a type of fuel that allows you to develop. And Roger believes that we have to look at the relationship between ourselves and our loved one to analyze, to study, to figure out how much of this fuel we are getting. According to Rogers, we can either engage in a relationship where we are receiving unconditional positive regards, or relationship with our loved one where we only receive conditional positive regards. So an example of unconditional positive regards would be a parent accepting a child as having merits regardless of their current behavior. So for example, loving a child and expressing your love for a child, for your child, regardless of the grade that they get in school. Conditional positive regards, on the other hand, is accepting a child only when they behave in the desired way. So, expressing your love to a child only if, let's say, they come home with an A as a grade in their exam. So if a child comes home with an A and you're saying, oh, you did such a great such a great job, I love you so much, that could be conditional or unconditional. Our question is, what happens when the child doesn't behave in the way you want? So let's say the child comes home with an F, a conditional positive regard, a situation in which a parent gives them conditional positive regards would be when they come home with an F and the parent says, I can't believe you got an F, you're grounded, I don't want to talk to you, go to your room. A child who has a situation where the parent provides unconditional positive regards to them will be come home with an F, and the parent says to them, I'm sorry you got an F, I wish you had done better, but I still love you. Right? So we can apply this idea of conditional and unconditional positive regards not only to the relationship between a parent and a child, but also relationship among friends or loved one. You can have a loved one in your life that says, I'm going, theoretically, I'm gonna, or paraphrasing the notion here, where it would be where a loved one says to you, I love you if you do something for me. Right? So I'm going to express my love to you only if you give me something in return. On the other hand, a situation in which you have a relationship with a loved one that is under unconditional positive regards, it will be a situation in which that person tells you, I love you regardless of what you do and how you behave. Now, going back to Rogers, right? According to Rogers, you're going to be able to develop yourself, right? Develop your personality from who you currently are, which is your self-concept, towards your ideal self, if you receive unconditional positive regards. Okay, so receiving that unconditional love is going to give you the power to change, and you're going to be more willing to modify your personality. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are shy, but you always wanted to be extroverted. Right? So your self-concept, your current impression of who you are going to be, I'm shy and I really wish, I could go out and talk to strangers, but I can't yet do that. But I'm going to try to develop my personality to get to that point where I can go out and talk to strangers. Now, according to Rogers, if you receive conditional positive regards, you're going to be less likely to develop your personality into an outgoing individual, right, if you are introverted. On the other hand, if you receive unconditional positive regards, and you know that there is someone there out there that's going to love you regardless of what happens, then you're more likely to be willing to take a chance and change from an introvert and try to go out and become extroverted. Right? In the beginning it's going to be hard. You're going to be, it's not going to be easy to go out and talk to strangers, and but again, you're more likely to do it if you have this fuel, this power of unconditional positive regards. Right? So I wish you all have a great deal of unconditional positive regards in your life.